All right. I want to ask you about A.J. Brown for a moment. Not where you think I'm going either. So, first, let me ask you this. Should the Eagles explore trading for a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr.?
St. Joe's prep kid. I'm biased to him, but watching him play in high school, I used to go to the Friday night games when he was a little after my time, but I love high school football.
The old man's from Philly, from what I understand, too.
Yeah, old man's from Philly. That's why he went to St. Joe's prep, the kid, obviously. So I think that'd be a decent option, but I don't think he'd be very happy here.
Depends who the quarterback is.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Okay.
Depends what offense they're running, too.
Here's where I'm going here. You do agree with me on this, that the A.J. Brown situation is going to affect your approach in the draft. And I'm going to tell you how.
Okay? I'm getting closer to thinking a wide receiver is possible.
Okay. Well, it's going to affect your approach, right? Because get this. If you take a wide receiver in the draft in the first 2 or 3 rounds, don't you lose your leverage with the Patriots? Well, wait, follow me here. You use a first rounder or a second or third on a wideout. How does that not lose a little leverage there going, well, wait, now you got to dump him?
I don't see it. I see it a little differently. I think even if let's play hypothetical here. Hypothetically, A.J. Brown is back next year. Okay, just think about that. If A.J. Brown is back, wouldn't it be pretty easy to make an argument the Eagles should still draft a wide receiver? I.e., take a look right now at the other football team you cover in the mornings. Tampa Bay Buccaneers drafted Emeka Egbuka last year in the first round. He was the 3rd wide receiver on that football team. Now, there was injuries. He got extra time, but they knew the end was coming with Mike Evans. They knew that Chris Godwin, potentially the end is coming with Chris Godwin. They drafted a guy that was a 3rd wide receiver to start the year.
Okay. What did they get in return for Mike Evans when he left for 49ers?
Yeah, nothing.
Okay. You think you're getting a one? I didn't know you do.
No, I don't even think
you're not getting a 1 next year. You may not.
I don't think we're getting a 1 this year.
I don't think you're getting a 2 next year either. If you trade him next year,
well,
and they fumble around with that offense, A.J. Brown's value right now is
no. Wait, let me just explain that real quick. Senor says that's different. Mike Evans is no longer on the team. Senor, that's kind of my point. Like, even if A.J. Brown's back this year, how many more years do you think A.J. is going to be here?
Not
one, right? 1. Probably max. So it might make sense to draft a wideout this year anyway, even if AJ returns for the season. That's what I'm kind of saying.
If you're looking at the next 2 years and you think that there's a kid at that position where you're going to take that, if you're as good as you think you're going to be and you're going to be picking in the late 20s next year, and you think there's a kid this year and you're evaluating a guy next year that's coming into the draft, you might want to drop a kid there in the 2nd round and wide receiver there.
I don't disagree. The thing is, I don't love the 1st round for him. Like, I'm not in love with these first round.
I don't think there's a 1st round receiver after Kid Tate. Maybe the SC kid and the other guy. There's 3 guys, I think.
There's a couple. They're solid, but they don't jump off the page to me.
No. Remember, though, A.J. Brown was a 2nd round pick, too.
Yeah, that's right. And they're making receivers in college out of laboratories right now. I mean, they're just spitting those things, spitting them out.
Devontae Adams was a 2nd rounder, too.
Yeah.
I mean, like 60% of the NFL wide receivers were not 1st round picks. You know that, right? Of the star
I'm
players.
hopeful that
Tyreek Hill wasn't a 1st rounder.
I'm hopeful that Devonta Smith really takes the step forward here. I have a lot of confidence in the player. I think the offense in some ways has, put a little bit of a cap on him as a player, a hypothetical lid on the player, a proverbial lid, I guess I should say.
You think he's lived up to the 10th pick in the draft?
I don't think he has but I don't think it's his fault.
Okay.
But I think the talent is there.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, you tell me, like, what do you think Devonta, and maybe it's not that good. What do you think Devonta would be with the Rams? How many yards?
With McVay, you mean?
Yeah.
A ton.
and Stafford. What do you think he would be with the
Shanahan.
Bengals, where T. Higgins is getting, a lot of catches too as a second?
He's better than T. Higgins.
I think Devonta Smith is a really freaking good player. I really do. But, my only questions with him have always been talent is different in the NFL because not all talent translates the same.
What I
You know,
don't like about him, and not him, the player, what I don't like about the Eagles is they've never utilized him more by moving him around, dropping him in the slot. And I think it's got a lot to
but
do
why?
with
Why is that?
because it's the limitations of AJ
Is that true?
and the quarterback.
I think it's
AJ
just
can't play in the
If that's
slot.
how I know Sills is going to word it that way. I think it's just the offense that they run that we've talked about a lot today.
Right.
That's not an offense that's going to
The NFL
accentuate.
profile said that AJ can't play in the slot.
Yeah, but even if you kept AJ on the outside, you can move Devontae more, but they don't move guys around a lot because their offense is simplified.
You mean the quarterback?
Right. This is what we talked. We've talked about this
Okay.
for 20 minutes today, 30 minutes today.
Okay. Well, I'm
Yeah,
talking
it's the
about
same thing we're talking
Devontae.
about. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
How in God's name are you going to get the most out of Devontae when you can't get the most out of the quarterback?
Well, I mean, maybe the new offense changes it. Maybe if he becomes the number one, it changes. AJ Brown did have 1,500 yards here in Philly.
Hurts is never going to do anything more than what he is.
Yeah, but he did get AJ 1,500 yards when he was the primary target.
Right.
If Devontae becomes the primary target, is he able to do that?
And in that offensive approach and getting him his 1,500 yards, the predictability factor on the offense was created.
Well,
You get 1,500 yards to a guy and you're 28th in approach. You tell me if you really were effective.
No, they weren't.
You got two 1,000-yard receivers and you got the 10th worst passing game.
Yeah, right. Right.
I've never seen anything like that ever not make sense. You think you're heading for an ugly divorce here with Hurts and the Eagles?
Do I think who's heading in reverse?
You think that Jalen Hurts is heading into a very ugly divorce with the Eagles?
Well, we talked about this a little bit. I don't think they're headed that way, but I think if it gets to that point, it will be uglier than Wentz was. Yes, I do. I think the fan base is far more attached to Jalen Hurts than they were to Carson Wentz. I think if you polled Eagle fans at the departure of Wentz, many people were ready to move on. I'm not saying everybody, but many were. I think if you do it now with Jalen Hurts, you're probably looking at a split fan base. I think it'll be really ugly. I do. But
you think it's split now?
Yeah. Look at our chat every day. You kidding me? 100% split now. It's not even close. I think it's 100% split. And again, I forget who it was that said this. Maybe it was Farzy. I forget who it was on your show. No, it's Jason Cole. I understand it. Like I understand why people like Jalen Hurts. I do.
Yeah.
It's not hard for me to see or understand Reyes and Spike and all these guys. It's not hard. I get it. He's been the quarterback of a team that's achieved more success in 4 years for the Philadelphia Eagles than any other era of Eagles football in the history of the franchise. I get it. So I think it will be ugly.
I want to make a point to that. What you just say that again about his success in Philly. His success in Philadelphia during this era, you think it's the winningest in his era? Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. I'm pretty sure it is.